here we are. It's the final live stream of the Australian Open, and this fortnight hasn't exactly gone quickly for me. I'm not sure about for you, but here we are. Started the tournament with 128 players in the men's draw and the women's draw in the singles. Oh my word. I've got my volume on there because I'm making sure that it's actually playing, but welcome back, guys, to the tennis vlog. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'm guessing if you're here already, you're probably subscribed, but on the off chance that you're not subscribed, hit subscribe now. Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. In the comments for the last video, and I'm sorry that I'm slow replying to comments at the moment, someone asked me to bring back the shorter preview and predictions videos. That's what I want to do. As I explained in a previous video, because of the time zones with me in Australia and the fact I actually need to sleep so that I don't die, I haven't been able to pre-record, edit, get up the shorter videos. So what I'm going to try and do is be a bit more concise this time around, but we've only got 2 matches anyway, so this is going to be a shorter video and I will jump straight into things in just a second. So thank you for being here. We've got 2 big finals coming up. I think that these are 2 really, well, they should be 2 really high quality finals featuring 4 really strong players who've really proven themselves throughout the tournament. On the women's side, we have number 4 seed Naomi Osaka versus number 6 seed Petra Kvitova, I believe. Let me just check that. I'm forgetting my facts already. She is the 8th seed. Fail, epic fail. 4th seed Naomi Osaka, 8th seed Petra Kvitova, and then on the men's side we have the top 2 seeds Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal facing off for the 53rd time. So we'll see what's something that's new that we can actually say about that clash. With big clashes like that, where the players have faced off so many times before, I like to try and keep it quite simple because, I mean, there's so much that could be said. So what we'll be doing is we'll be starting off with the women's match, spending a bit of time on that, and then moving on to the men's match, and hopefully we should have about equal parts for each during the video. I'm sorry if I get slow and tired. It's the last video, so we're going to plow through. And genuinely, I think these are probably the 4 strongest. I mean, of course they're going to be the strongest players because they're here in the final, but I think each of these 4 players has performed consistently throughout the tournament, so we should have 2 really good finals. So let's start off. Oh, and before I jump into this, I think I don't know if this is just me kind of defending myself in case anything goes majorly wrong. One of these matches, and I'm not saying which, I'll say after I've done the preview and analysis for that particular match. One of these matches is, I think, the hardest prediction that I've ever done on this channel, ever. And I've literally been going round and round and round in circles over it, and I have, to this moment right here, sat right here now, I don't actually know which way I'm going with the prediction. So the best I can hope is that my analysis and looking at their paths to date maybe give you an idea of how it's going to go, but for me it hasn't really, so I've been swaying back and forth, and once I've done the analysis for that particular match I will let you know which one has been absolutely doing my head in. So let's start with the women's match, which is Naomi Osaka versus Petra Kvitova, the defending US Open champion versus the 2-time Wimbledon champion. Let's have a look. Oh, and someone reminded me that my predictions for the semis were, they said spot on. Edgar says they were spot on, but actually the set scores weren't exact, but we can overlook that because for once, 100% accuracy, which is it's not a usual feeling for me, so I get to brag like a little bit because someone accused me of being terrible at predictions recently, and that made me quite happy. So anyway, wasting time again, 4 minutes, Abigail, come on. Right. Let's get into this first match, and I'm going to put in the description where the analysis starts because no one wants to sit there listening to me ramble. Okay, Naomi Osaka versus Petra Kvitova. First of all, let's go through their paths to date. I know we've done this in previous videos, but for anyone that's new, this is how each player got to the final. So Osaka, under a bit of scrutiny actually, I thought, looking at the draw straight away, I thought she had a great draw. I said to people there is no reason for her not to be making the semi-finals. Really, there was no real excuse given her draw for her not to live up to her seeding, and she's done more than that. She's made the finals. So started off with we're going to have to open this a bit more because there's been more matches. Yeah, 2 fairly easy wins in rounds 1 and 2. Her opponents not the highest of quality. 6-4, 6-2 and 6-2, 6-4. Moved on very confidently there. Worth noting that Osaka has played all of her matches on the 2 show courts, Rod Laver Arena and Margaret Court Arena, whereas Kvitova has only played her most recent 3 matches on show courts, most recent 4 matches on show courts, 3 Rod Laver Arena. Oh, no, I'm correct. Her last 3 matches, Kvitova, have all been on Rod Laver Arena. Before that, she was on Melbourne Arena once and 1573 Arena twice. And I think that kind of thing, I mean, she should have played into the conditions of Rod Laver Arena now, but I just think it's interesting to note because that sort of thing can actually hurt a player deeper into the tournament. But I mean, Kvitova's had it under control, so she's been fine. Rambling already, sidetracking, what the heck, just carry on. So after those first 2 wins for Osaka, she was pushed closer in the next 2 rounds against number 28 seed Sue Shea and number 13 seed Anastasia Sevastova. Both of them able to mix it up, make Osaka move, make her think more, throwing in quite unconventional shots and not necessarily giving her the flat, powerful ball she wanted to hit. Sevastova, actually, in the latter stages, was not mixing it up as much as she could, and I think that helped Osaka a bit in the later stages, but she demonstrated her, her big moment mentality and her ability to just assess the situation, problem solve, and come through. She just loves these big stages, Osaka, and even though she was pushed to 3 sets in both those matches, she was able to come through. Then an easier scoreline against Alina Svitolina, the number 6 seed. I was, even though I'd thought that all the way through that Osaka would at least make the semi-finals, when she was going into that match with Svitolina, I was kind of having a few second thoughts because Svitolina had played so well during the event. She'd been so intense, really quite consistent from the baseline. And Osaka dusted her off 6-4, 6-1. And I think that was a key victory for Osaka in terms of her mentality and showing what she was about, because I mean, even though she hit quite a few unforced errors, she was very much in control, I felt, of that match. Even though she was not clinical, she was going for it. It was on her racket because she was being so aggressive. Obviously, she was going to make more unforced errors, but it was still enough for her to get through with only dropping 5 games. So that was an impressive win for Osaka. Then she moved on to her match with Karolina Pliskova, and we will look at some stats from this one as well. Pliskova obviously coming in off that win over Serena Williams, crazy mad win of which I've never seen anything like it. Serena led 5-1 match point in the 3rd set. Serena Williams doesn't lose from those positions, except now she has done. Rolled her ankle a little bit. Was called a foot fault on match point, and from there Pliskova just stepped up after being really gifted the break and then just played lights out tennis, really earned the win in the end. But if you remember from watching the last video, I said I had my doubts about Pliskova. In fact, I thought Osaka would win that match, plainly because Pliskova had played so well for so much of that match with Serena, but still was on the brink of being beaten 6-1 in the 3rd set before things went awry on the other side of the court. So I didn't think she was going to take down Osaka, and indeed Osaka proved to be the more consistent. Even though she lost that 2nd set, Osaka, and I'll go directly to the stats in a minute, she was actually on quite level pegging with Pliskova there. Sometimes in tennis, it literally comes down to a point or 2 points that completely decide or change the outcome of a set or a match, and that was the case in the 2nd set. She didn't substantially drop in terms of her level. I think there was only like a difference of 1 between her unforced error count in sets 2, sets 3, and sets 1. But yeah, she was able to regroup, and the mentality it took, I guess, to regroup from losing a set that she could easily have won is very impressive. So let's have a look at those stats. Osaka versus Pliskova, and going down, what really stood out to me as well were the service stats. Now, Pliskova obviously is known for her serve, and she landed 72% of her first serves, yet she only served 3 aces, which is a marked contrast to her match with Serena, where you know, her big serve was a big factor in the match. Osaka, meanwhile, who does have a big serve and does have big ground strokes, but isn't known for her serve per se, like Pliskova is, hit 15 aces, which are the kind of numbers you would expect to be coming from Pliskova's side of the net. Now, Osaka was obviously doing a good job on the return, I think, looking at those numbers, not just pouncing on the second serve returns, which doing something that you don't often see from players not named Serena Williams. She's been stepping inside the baseline a couple of steps in order to absolutely crack down on the second serve return. And even when she hasn't won the point, she's immediately been in a dominant position. She's moving well, which means she can adjust to whatever comes back at her. So I think those numbers, the fact that Pliskova was landing so many first serves and the fact she was only able to serve 3 aces, the fact that she only won 32% of her second serves shows that Osaka is not just good on the first, on her serve, which the 15 aces show, but she's also making a real impact on the return game. And I feel like there are a lot of talented players on the WTA Tour that could be doing a heck of a lot more with their return. Osaka is one of those players who's nailing it at the moment. Breakpoints won. Pliskova had 8 breakpoints. Osaka had 11, so fairly close. Pliskova converted 2 of 8. Osaka 4 of 11. Didn't come to the net much, but if you're dominating and dictating the way that Osaka is, I don't think that she needs to change it up that much. I mean, your net play and your slice and all that kind of thing comes into play usually if you're an aggressive player when you're not dominating or dictating the way you want and you need further options. Osaka didn't need that. I feel like she was pretty in control for the majority of this match. Unforced errors, 30 for Osaka, 21 for Pliskova, so you would think from that Pliskova was more clinical. However, you look at their winner counts, Pliskova hit 20 winners over 3 sets, which does not match her numbers against Serena. Osaka, meanwhile, hit 56 winners to 30 unforced errors. So, tells you a lot about how Osaka is hitting her marks and generally feeling confident on the court. And as much as I hate to compare players, I'm going to look at the fact that Osaka is largely compared to Serena Williams, who she beat in that controversial US Open final, and who she also beat in the first round of Indian Wells last year. She has a 2-love head-to-head record against her, unless they played before that, which I don't think they did. Yeah, Osaka compared a lot to Serena, and you can see why. The big serve, the immediate attack, the way she even strikes the ball is fairly similar. I feel like Serena generally plays with less topspin, is hitting flatter and slightly more powerful, but there are shades of Serena in Osaka's game. I can't deny it. The way she's stepping in for the returns, obviously, but just the way she handles herself and the air she has on the court, this assurance in the latter rounds of the biggest events that the win is coming her way. I just see so much of Serena in Osaka, and that's why I think she has a very good chance in this upcoming match and in all the upcoming major tournaments, because here we're seeing a player that's so focused, and whether it's to do with the people she's got around her, who I think have had a major impact, Sasha Bayin, her coach, her family, creating this kind of safe haven for her and making her believe. Miami first round, thank you. Osaka won Indian Wells, went straight on to Miami, beat Serena first round in Miami. But going back to it, yes, I think Osaka has this network of people around her who are making her believe that she is supposed to go deep in all these majors, that she can win more Grand Slams, because this is a completely different Osaka to the Naomi Osaka ranked number 72 that we saw here a year ago. I was at a tournament in Nottingham in the summer. She was walking around the grounds. No one was paying much attention to her. There was a practice of hers. I was literally the only person sat there watching because nobody knew her, nobody cared, because she just hadn't broken through yet. I mean, yes, she'd won Indian Wells, but she hadn't been overly consistent since then. But since the US Open, she's just backed it up massively. It's almost like she feels like she has something to prove after that tournament, that it wasn't a fluke win. And definitely she has the mentality to cope with all of this. And I think that makes her so different to most of the rising players we're seeing on tour at the moment. This mentality and this confidence that sees her playing attacking tennis match after match, even when she's in a losing position, this just makes her stand out from the rest of the pack. Kvitova, meanwhile, what a tournament for Petra Kvitova. Hasn't dropped a set coming into this final, which is in contrast to Osaka, who's already dropped 3. Raced through her first, well, she's raced through most of her matches, to be honest, let's be real. Magdalena Radbarakova in round 1, former Wimbledon semi-finalist, likes to slice off the forehand and backhand, can be quite difficult to play. That was a tough first round, and Kvitova was through 6-3, 6-2. Irina Camelia Begu has been seeded as a slam before, as I keep saying, but hard court's not her most renowned. She's not renowned for being great on hard courts, let's put it that way, and Kvitova saw her off 6-1, 6-3. Belinda Bencic, the impressive one for me early on. Bencic has been top 10, was coming back to form, looking really good at Hopman Cup, and Kvitova through 6-1, 6-4. Amanda Anisimova, the 17-year-old who everyone was talking about this time a week ago. It's funny at a Grand Slam how quickly things can move on. Go back a week and a half, all the talk was about Andy Murray and his retirement. Go back a week and a lot of the talk was about Amanda Anisimova. A week on, and I wonder who remembers her name at the moment. Tennis moves that fast. We'll be hearing a lot more about her in future because she really has such a lethal serve and forehand and backhand depth and flat power. For her age, it's really amazing. Kvitova didn't care for any of that. She got revenge for her defeat to the American last year. 6-2, 6-1 was the scoreline. Then a win over Ashley Barty, the home player, who can really throw so much variety into her game with the volleys, the sliced backhands. She's hitting a very clean ball at the moment, obviously had a lot of confidence. And that was a 6-1, 6-4 win for Kvitova. Barty didn't have a greater serving day. Kvitova, an absolute dream on serve. And then when it got closer in the second set, just hung tough on her serve, waited for her opportunity, and she didn't wait to be asked twice. Broke serve, closed it out. Fantastic stuff. Danielle Collins might have been, in fact, I would call it her toughest match so far. Collins, the former American college tennis player, 25 years old, come out of the blue, really out of the blue for her first Grand Slam semi-final, had not won a match here before. She went down 7-6, 6-love, had her chances in that first set where, interestingly, Kvitova had lost some of her clinical ability of the preceding sets, and was taken to a tiebreak, obviously, regrouped there, and then raced through the second set. Collins plays a very heavy ball, a lot of topspin, and then she's very precise with her depth. She can, like Kvitova has been doing, really, she kind of rips winners. She's not always content to just rally, and she can rip winners with the forehand and backhand, which made her a difficult opponent, but I think Kvitova's real danger in that match was herself, her own unforced errors, the way she was kind of unraveling a bit in the first set. Kvitova, as we know her as a player, which makes it kind of a surprise that she's rolled through to the final like this. She's very streaky, and she can be absolutely brilliant, and she can be absolutely calamitous, and she can really actually beat herself when she's hitting her marks with the swinging wide lefty serve, with the slice and everything. When she's on the back foot, with her ability to dictate with that forehand, she's brilliant, but she can really self-destruct. So it's impressive, deeply impressive for Kvitova that even though she had a wobble in that first set, she's able to come through in straight sets in all of her matches. So let's have a quick look at the stats from that particular match. And I'm sorry that I keep looking down, but lots of stuff going on my screen at the moment. Okay, so just the 4 aces for Kvitova, 2 for Collins, 4 double faults each. The thing that I was most interested to look at was the difference in number of unforced errors in each set. I'm on the Australian Open website at the moment, and if you go to the top of the stats for each match, you can see the stats for the individual sets. Now, overall, Kvitova had 27 unforced errors to her opponent's 16. So, I mean, you have to look at the winners to see why she was winning with those numbers, because she hit 30 winners to Collins' 9. And for a player as aggressive and out there as Collins, the fact that she was only allowed to hit 9 winners during the match tells you something about how Kvitova finished that one. So 27 winners overall for Kvitova, but if we section them up into sets, in set 1, I believe that she hit 22 of her 27 unforced errors. 22 of her 27 unforced errors came in the first set, which means a mere 5 came in the second. Now, what she needs to focus on now, obviously, is having a quick start. Osaka, yes, has been taken to 3 sets in 3 of her previous matches, but it's a Grand Slam final, and I feel like she's been trained to be in a position where she doesn't get overly nervous in the face of these big occasions, or if she does get nervous, she uses that as fuel for her game to produce her best tennis. So Kvitova needs to start fast. And now we come to the tricky bit, which is the prediction. And I'm going to tell you now that this is the match that I am really struggling to predict. I've had, let's think, these two reached the final yesterday. I've had over 24 hours, probably about 30, to think about who I want to, not who I want to, but who I think will win this match. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm still sat here swaying back and forth. On the one hand, you have Kvitova, who has not dropped a set going into the final, who has a brilliant record in finals full stop, and who has never lost a Grand Slam final. She's 2 out of 2 in Grand Slam finals played. Then you have Naomi Osaka, who clearly has a mentality for the big occasions, who has been on a ride of momentum since the US Open, really. Yes, she's had a handful of losses, but she hasn't been massively underperforming at all. She reached the final of the event she played straight after the US Open, when I thought if she was going to falter, it would be there. She's maintained her form in a way that the majority of the other first-time champions on the WTA Tour have not managed to do. And she just comes through in these big moments, like in the three-set matches she's had. Yes, she's made unforced errors, but she's always seemed quite calm and quietly controlled, really. I say quietly, she comes out with the big come-ons fairly regularly now, to be fair. Another similarity to Serena Williams. But this is the dilemma I'm having. You've got two players here, and you'll have heard, if you've been listening to me on the radio over the past few days, they've asked me this a couple of times. And you've got Kvitova, who is the lefty. So how's Osaka going to cope against a lefty who's nailing her marks, pushing her out wide with the serve? Is she going to have the pace to keep up on the back foot? Because she is going to be on the back foot sometimes. So you've got Kvitova with her lefty swing. You've got Osaka with her precise power. And both of them are playing a very high-quality, aggressive game. Both of them have looked seriously impressive coming into this final, even though Osaka has dropped sets, even though Kvitova made those unforced errors in the first set of her match with Collins. And they've got no previous head-to-head. These two have never played each other before, so in that respect, there is nothing to go off even, in terms of previous meetings. Which means that until they actually get on court and start playing, I'm not totally sure how their styles are going to match up. I'm not sure who's going to get onto the front foot more easily, especially on the return. I'm not sure whether Kvitova is going to come out and actually ditch the quality that she's had all tournament, which I find hard to see happening. I don't know if Kvitova is going to be less forgiving of Osaka's unforced errors than her previous opponents have been. It's just a really hard one to call. And I've been so close to saying Osaka, and then I've been so close to saying Kvitova, because the moment you think you're going to predict one, you're like, yes, but what about this? And what about that? And these two are players who, when they reach the latter rounds of big events, they're just so reliable and so consistent. It doesn't happen often for Kvitova, but when it happens, it's because she's on a roll. And I'm even not quite sure now what I'm going to say. What I need to say is, this is something you need to think about for yourselves as well, how you feel about it based on the analysis. I think you can analyze things the way I have and still come out with a different prediction to me, because it's that close and it's so hard to pick one or the other. It's so close that I'm nervous to say a name. When I was pushed on the radio earlier and they asked for a prediction on the spot, I thought about it for about 5 seconds and I went with Naomi Osaka. And the reason I did that is because at the beginning of the tournament, I said that there were 3 women I thought could win the title. One was Serena Williams, one was Angelique Kerber, and one was Naomi Osaka. And I thought that because of her mentality and because of the way she was playing ahead of the event when she reached the semi-finals of a tournament and kind of self-destructed in terms of her mentality, I thought that was the best time that could possibly happen to her, because it was ahead of a Grand Slam. It gave her a bit more time to prepare herself, and it also showed her the sort of things that can come up against her in a big match, and she was able to identify that and work on that ahead of the big events. So, in a way, I've already predicted Osaka, but when I came off the radio, one of my sisters said to me, "I can't believe you went with Osaka. I would go with Kvitova." And she had valid reasons for going with Kvitova, and honestly, I can see this going either way. I can see this being a tight three-setter, but at the same time, I can see it being straight sets win for either player, because just because they're playing so well, it doesn't mean that this is going to go down the wire. We don't know how quickly one of them is going to fall away. If she might get pushed around, and then you think, well, her record in finals. So I say it again, I'm going to make a prediction in a minute, but I say it again, this is the hardest prediction I've ever done on this channel, and not even the Nadal-Djokovic match coming up tops it. I know where I'm going with that one. This one, for the sake of this video, because you want a prediction, and that's why you're here, as some of you probably don't care about my analysis, however good or bad it is, I'm going to... I hate this so much. I'm going to say, because I've predicted against her in the past and then felt like an idiot, I'm going to say Naomi Osaka to win this title. I think if anyone is going to win back-to-back Grand Slam titles outside of Serena Williams, it's going to be Osaka because of her consistency. Because mentality. It will be the first time since 2001 when Jennifer Capriati won her maiden titles back-to-back that someone has definitely think that Osaka has a massive future ahead. And I'm going to predict her to do it. Because it's such a close call, I have to say in 3 sets, but I do think that if Osaka's winning, then for Kvitova to kind of lose her way and self-destruct, and therefore it could actually be straight sets and even over fairly quickly. But, you know, I've just got to put something out there. We've been going on for nearly half an hour. Not Petra Kvitova, sorry. Naomi Osaka to win in 3 sets. But I'm saying it right now, if Petra Kvitova wins this title, whether it be in 3 sets or straight sets, I would not be one bit surprised. And I'm going to hate this match so much, because I'm going to be watching it and thinking, oh, I should have known it would go like this. But it's so hard to call, you know, and both of them deserve to be there. They've played some absolutely magnificent tennis between them. I do find it hard to see Kvitova losing, given the fact that she hasn't actually dropped a set yet. But yeah, I mean, you know that I'm often terrible with predictions, so by all means, predict Kvitova to win. But yeah, this is a match. Last thing I'm saying on this before I move on to the men, because I'm probably going to end up spending less time on them because I know where I'm going with it. But yeah, this is literally a match that could go either way. That could be a close 3-setter. That could be a straight sets win for either player. And I don't think we've seen a match quite like this one in a long time. So yeah, it should be a very interesting match, however it plays out. And closing the book on that one, and what will happen will happen. So that's the women's match finally done. Apologies for my rambling, but I kind of needed to get all aspects and corners of that one. Now moving on to, it's hilarious because this one shouldn't technically be the easier prediction given the history of these players, but we're moving on to top seed Novak Djokovic versus number 2 seed Nafa. Oh my word. Number 2 seed Rafael Nadal, and oh boy, these guys were insane in their semi-final wins. I think both of them produce such high-quality tennis, and that makes the prospect of a 53rd meeting between them all the more tantalizing. So, let's quickly run through their paths to date. I'm going to start with Mr. Nadal, who is yet to drop a set, kind of like Petra Kvitova. Well, yeah, very similar, because Nadal hasn't really been pushed at all on his way either. He's been taken to 1-7-5 set in the first round, won tiebreak set in the fourth round. Yeah, fourth round against Thomas Berdych. But I mean, he's just taken it all in his stride, and I think I've definitely watched all of Nadal's matches. Oh, I'm not sure if I saw too much of the Berdych one. I mean, that was over because it was the serve that impressed me most. But in his last match, if you did not see it, you will have seen many people, including myself, call it, and that is, it might be the best I've ever seen Nadal play on hard courts, literally. And yes, he was playing against Stefanos Tsitsipas. Tsitsipas has been having a tremendous fortnight. So let's first three rounds played Aussies, serve and volleying James. Seriously, I think that's the most games he's dropped in a match all tournament. So the further he goes in, the more comprehensive he's being. He's just been fantastic. So great opening for Nadal, really pinpointing Duckworth. He's been great at reading the ball, knowing where the point is going, and placing the ball where he needs it in order to get onto the front foot or to set up the points so that he can finish off. So that was a good win over Duckworth, another good win over Matthew Ebden, 6-3, 6-2, 6-2. Ebden didn't play half badly, but Nadal was just on top. Alex de Minaur all over the court with his pace, striking some great winners with intense firepower, but he threw everything at Nadal, and Nadal was just there for the big points, for the big moments. It was close for the first three games, long first three games. De Minaur thought he'd broken serve, Nadal challenged, and he hadn't. And from there, Nadal was on an absolute roll. 6-1, 6-2, 6-4. It was like he was playing a big brick wall, de Minaur. There was nothing that he could do, no way he could get past, and it was absolutely insane from Nadal. Thomas Berdych, by his own admission, did not turn up for the first two sets. Woke up to make it close in the third set, but that was a 6-love, 6-1, 7-6, 7-4 in the tiebreak win for Nadal. And quite encouraging for him because Berdych actually beat him in straight sets in the quarterfinals here in 2015, so always good to reverse a result like that. Francis Tiafoe and his firepower, big serve, ability to come into the nets. I think some people thought he might have a chance at the upset, but Nadal was just in cruise control again, 6-3, 6-4, 6-2. Bit too many unforced errors from Tiafoe, but Nadal again just thriving in those big moments in the pressure points. And then Stefanos, I can't pronounce anything tonight. I mean, I am at my end, the end of my energy, the end of my ability to keep going. It's been a phenomenal tournament, but I'm ready for it to be over. Yes, Stefanos Tsitsipas, the number 14 seed, who really thought he had a fighting chance at this upset after his monumental defeat of Roger Federer in the fourth round. But 6-2, 6-4, 6-love from Nadal, and this is the big one. This is the result that, with Nadal heading into the final, says, I am not letting up. Let's have a look at those statistics, if I can just pull them up here. I don't think there was a single person that could have said, over the years, there have been so many people trying to suggest that Nadal can't play on hard courts, that it's his weakness, etc., etc. He's won more slams on hard courts than most players could dream of winning. I mean, Andy Murray has won 3 Grand Slams in total. Nadal's won 3 Grand Slams on hard courts. I mean, he's not bad. Let's go. 6-2, 6-4, 6-love. And have a look at these statistics. 5 aces for the both of them, similar percentage of first serves in, but Nadal with more than 20% of first serves won. That serve has been crucial, not just in terms of like the variety he's putting on it, but the way he's hitting the lines and the way he's hitting it so strongly, and he's pushing his opponents back with it and then staying on the front foot. So obviously that adjusted service motion ahead of the tournament has been great stuff for Nadal. 71% of second serves won. That is great. Meanwhile, Tsitsipas down at 30% because Nadal, the further he went into the match, the more, not just solid, but lethal he became in all aspects of his game. He approached the net 22 times, won 18 of those points. Nadal doesn't always need to come to the net, which is why some people don't realise that he's actually a great net player. Great control and great feel for the ball. He can drop volley, he can drive it deep, he can wrong foot with those shots. It was just a masterclass from Nadal, and I know I keep saying it, but it's seriously, seriously good. 28 winners to 14 unforced errors. He hit more unforced errors than he dropped points on serve. He only dropped 12 points on serve for the entire match. 22 unforced errors for Tsitsipas compared to 17 winners. So to be fair, I don't think that Tsitsipas played a bad match, to be honest. He obviously got frustrated in the end and was throwing in more unforced errors because he was so frustrated and he could not see a way past Nadal. He was really... He wasn't quite self-destructing, but he was doing everything in an effort to find something that would trouble Nadal. He was changing things up. He was coming to the net. He was trying to hit winners earlier. But it just wasn't enough because Nadal was so fast on the back foot, because he was anticipating serves and things in advance and preparing himself. And he was just forcing Tsitsipas back the whole time. He was keeping him away from the net quite a lot. And I think that Tsitsipas would have liked to come forward more. It was a key feature in his win against Roger Federer, who also likes to come to the net a lot, coming forward, cutting the points short, guessing the angles on his volleys. In their 3-set match, Nadal only allowed Tsitsipas up to the net 19 times, and Tsitsipas only won 10 of those points, and it's because Nadal knew what was coming and was able to nail passes, was able to pinpoint him at the net, keeping the balls low. And Nadal's control was just so good. I mean, this is definitely one of the best matches that Nadal's ever played on hard courts, and the only better place it could have come is in the Australian Open final. It remains to be seen whether he can replicate such a high standard, but he indicates that he thinks he can do better. So Novak Djokovic will probably be facing his toughest opponent of the fortnight. Let's have a look then at Novak Djokovic's own run to this final. He's a 6-time former champion here, Djokovic. These are courts in which he feels exceedingly comfortable, and that has shown in his last couple of matches. He's had some tough ones, Djokovic, not been forced to 5 sets, but I mean, most players would be very happy with his run, but compared to Nadal's run, he hasn't got through in straight sets every time. He's had a couple of 4-set matches, but, you know, he's had some tough opponents in there as well. Let's have a look. Michel Correga, the American qualifier. I was surprised at the fight and resistance he put up in round 1, but Djokovic was very controlled on that occasion. It was a good start for him. He wasn't just going for the winner straight off. What Djokovic is very good at is point construction. So he will think in advance of how he wants the point to finish, and he won't just go for the winner. He will set up shots in order to make that winner easier. So he would put Correga even in a certain place. For example, he would draw him up to the net, and then he would go cross-court himself and hit a volley winner down the line. He's always thinking one step ahead, Djokovic, and he's so calm and clinical when executing, and that's part of what makes him such a difficult player to face, because he's always thinking ahead to what's coming next. Against Jo-Wilfried Tsonga, a player who obviously has some massive weapons, everything it takes really to trouble a top guy, but lacks a lot of consistency, as everybody knows. Djokovic won 6-3, 7-5, 6-4, so a bit of trouble in that second set, but for the most part, you know, Djokovic just less unforced errors, coping well with Tsonga's firepower, and able to just hang in there and take his opportunities. Denis Shapovalov, the young guy with the one-handed backhand, who was more hyped than several players. He was a bigger name than Stefanos Tsitsipas for a while. Some of the others that have broken through, Hyun Chung, for example. So he had some confidence going into face Djokovic. He thought it was possible. The upsets, managed to get the third set 6-4, but Djokovic completely regrouped for 6-love in the set after that. The overall score 6-3, 6-4, 4-6, 6-love. So fairly confidence-boosting win for Djokovic, because Shapovalov was the 25th seed. We know the sort of stuff he's capable of. He beat Rafael Nadal as a 17-year-old, I believe. I think he's 19 now, and achieved so much at such a young age. So these players, like Alexander Zverev, who's done so much, won multiple Masters 1000 titles at the age of just 21. I think sometimes because of the higher profile the next-gen players are getting, with the whole ATP campaign for them, with their own next-gen finals tournament at the end of the year, I think this heightened exposure they're getting is putting unnecessary pressure on them. Like, you're gonna struggle to find another Nadal, another Djokovic, who are performing so well at such a young age. they're doing good stuff. They are. I think the next step for the young players is to step up at the Masters 1000s before they step up at the Grand Slams. Really, best of 5 is a whole different ball game. But a guy who thought he might have Djokovic on the ropes and had the potential to do so was Daniil Medvedev, the number 15 seed. He was very consistent in his baseline rallies with Djokovic, hitting quite a strong and powerful ball. But Djokovic, the more consistent and able to outlast him. Medvedev definitely tired him out during Djokovic's 6-4, 6-7, 6-2, 6-3 win, where he actually led Djokovic by a set and a break and probably could have managed a straight sets win there. He was a little tired out by that run around, but exactly what he needed in the quarterfinal was a retirement by Kei Nishikori, who'd absolutely worked his socks off all tournaments and just couldn't keep going. He retired with injury, down 6-1, 4-1 to Djokovic. And Djokovic, given that due to the Australian Open's crazy schedule, one guy plays his semi-final the day before the other, and Djokovic has drawn the short straw and played the second day. I think that was key for Djokovic to get that little bit extra rest ahead of what is probably going to be a marathon match against Nadal. This was a decent way for things to play out for him. And then against Luca Pui, he absolutely steamrolled to the 6-love, 6-2, 6-2 win. I was even able to get a bit more sleep after that win, so I wasn't complaining. But a swift win for Djokovic earlier today, and we'll look at the stats, but I want to say that before I watched that match, Djokovic is not a stupid guy. He's a very smart guy. And I think that he would have seen, clearly he saw Nadal play, and he would have been aware of how dominant Nadal has looked all tournament. And there is this real competitive fire in Djokovic. It's what's allowed him to grind his way up and live alongside Federer and Nadal and dominate them at times as well. His real competitive spirit. And I thought Djokovic will have looked at Nadal and how easily he's come through, and he'll have looked at his own path to the semi-finals, and he will have thought, I need a good win here to make a statement ahead of that final. And by way of the scoreline, it looks like that's exactly what he did. And, when he was asked in his press conference whether he had tried to drop less games even than Nadal, he actually said, I'm not sure if he was joking, but I think he was being serious. He said that, yes, he did, and it works out rather well. So, maybe he was joking, maybe he wasn't, but I definitely think that competitive instinct was there, and that, because both Nadal and Djokovic are such good mental players as well, so strong in the mental department, and they would know the importance of making a statement to their opponent ahead of that final meeting. And I think this definitely sends a key message, because before ahead of the tournament, a lot of you will know that my outright predictions to win were Serena, who had that crazy loss, and Novak Djokovic. And after Nadal's win, I was teetering. I was like, maybe things are going to be a bit different, because frankly, Djokovic has not looked as strong as Nadal, but with this win, Djokovic put it back in the balance. That 4 games dropped in a Grand Slam semi-final on the men's side. Insane stuff. So let's have a look at the stats. Now, I have to be honest, I do not think Luca Pui put up as good of a fight as Stefanos Tsitsipas against Nadal. For one thing, Tsitsipas, even though he was getting royally hammered in parts of the match, he was definitely stepping up and trying to change his tactics. He was willing to not just go by one line of doing things. Is this buffering for anyone else? I've just noticed that it stopped. Let's have a go. Bear with me. I just don't want you to be watching a frozen stream. Here we go. All good. Where was I at? Oh yeah, Luca Pui. So, yes, Tsitsipas was trying everything. He was drop-shotting. He was going for the winners early. He was approaching the net when he could. Everything he could do to try and stop Nadal, nothing was working. Pui, on the other hand, I felt was just not trying enough options. Ahead of the match, I said on the radio, so it'll be out there somewhere, that the only way I could see Pui winning this match was if he A, served big, and B, came up to the net, cut off the longer rallies that Djokovic loves so much, didn't give Djokovic power to devour from the baseline, and yeah, just tried and took things. He had to try and take things into his own hands, whether it was serve and volleying, whether it was finding a way on the return to rush up to the net and finish things off. That was the only game style I saw coming through for Pouille. But and I didn't watch this match right from the beginning, but I saw the vast majority of it. From the moment I started watching, for games on end, I did not see Pouille approach the net, and he was getting dominated. Djokovic loves it when players rally with him from the baseline because he knows on the majority of occasions he has the upper hand. He's thinking one step ahead. He's in control. Even if the other player is hitting with power, his ability to place with such precision is what makes him such a lethal opponent to face. Whether he's on the front foot or the back foot, his placement is brilliant. And Pouille was playing into his hands. He was playing exactly the game that Djokovic wanted to, and as well, he was throwing in a lot of unforced errors. Here we saw a player, for all his years on tour, who I don't feel was mentally ready for this occasion. He was clearly nervous. He was up against Djokovic, who is one of the toughest players to face mentally out there, which probably didn't help. And credit to Djokovic, I think the way he was placing his shots, absorbing the power, thinking one step ahead, I think that made it harder for Pouille to actually try different things. Djokovic sometimes was holding him back and he wasn't able to come forwards, but Pouille he would try serve and volleying a couple of times later in the match. He would try coming forward to the net, and if it didn't work a couple of times, he wouldn't really do it again. So I think that he will definitely leave this match with regrets, because that is a very lopsided scoreline, but it's a big learning experience for him as well. And make no mistake, Djokovic played incredibly well. Let's have a look at the stats. He was pretty clinical. 6 aces, 0 double faults, 72% of first serves in, compared to Pouille's 54%, which is a key stat because throughout this tournament, where Pouille absolutely ground and fought his way into the semi-finals, his serve was a key feature, swinging it out wide, backing it up by moving forwards, backing it up with the deep forehand winners. That serve wasn't really there, and that's like a foundation for the whole of his game. So that was difficult for Pouille. 84% of first serve points won for Djokovic, and Djokovic isn't known to be one of the players with the biggest serve, so that's a key stat for him. And let's go to the receiving points won, only 15% for Pouille. Let's have a look at the return winners, 5 for Djokovic, and when he hit those return winners, it wasn't necessarily stepping up and taking it on the rise, it was the thing with placement, moving in advance. And I remember one in particular when Pouille served out wide and Djokovic hit a backhand winner up the line. There was not much power in that shot, it was the timing of his connection with the ball and the placement of it, and the way he kept it quite low, which meant that Pouille had no chance of getting it back. Djokovic just had thoroughly thought everything out in all departments and was very much staying in the moment. Winners, 24 for Djokovic to 5 unforced errors. They are brilliant, brilliant numbers. And again, it comes down to his timing, the way he structures the points, the way he has his opponent on the run, opening up the space in order for him to land the final ball. 18 winners for Pouille, but 27 unforced errors. That's a monumental amount to have against a guy who's playing such clean tennis. So 83 points won in total for Djokovic, 44 for Pouille. And Djokovic comes into this final now looking very imperious and also very ready for this match. I think Djokovic looked supremely confident at the thought of facing Nadal again here at the Australian Open for the first time since their 2012 final, which was a marathon match, has the record and had the record for the longest men's final encounter of all time. I mean, it's very well known. Many of you will know that Nadal and Djokovic, they needed chairs to sit down after that match during the trophy ceremony because both of them were cramping. They had absolutely run each other ragged, and they didn't even go past 7-5 in the final set. It's just a testimony and a tribute to how much they push each other, how much they absolutely bully each other on court, run each other around, long rallies. They are two such physical players, and I think it's going to be another marathon one. I think it's going to be another long one based on the form of both of them. I think they're really going to push each other. Now, let's have a look at this head-to-head. 27 wins for Novak Djokovic and 25 for Rafael Nadal. So, Very close. These two players know each other's games inside out. Maybe there'll be a couple of surprises for Djokovic because Nadal says that he has adapted his game to his age, which is why he's playing a bit differently in Melbourne. He's going for the winners probably more quickly than he would have done. He's changed up his serve a bit. Djokovic, on the other hand, said in his press conference that he has adapted his age to his game. Quite intimidating for the rest of the tour, really, is the fact that he said he doesn't feel any significant wear and tear on his body. So we could be seeing Novak Djokovic dominating the sport for years to come. And I think that in terms of when they come up against each other and are playing each other on Sunday, I think there'll probably be more for Djokovic to be surprised about than Nadal, because Nadal has made some tweaks to his game, but obviously Djokovic has been watching, so he's not going to have that shock like players facing Nadal for the first time who don't really know what it feels like to face his forehand until they're there on court, the height and the way it pushes you back. But let's have a look at these numbers then. So 27 wins for Djokovic and 25 for Nadal. I had a brief look through earlier. The thing that stood out to me was the fact that Nadal has not beaten Djokovic in a hard court match since, I believe, 2013. 2013, yes, which was the final of the US Open, which Nadal won 6-2, 3-6, 6-4, 6-1. Nadal was on a roll at that US Open tournament. He was in form. So I guess there are similarities to be drawn between that tournament for Nadal and this one. Djokovic was playing decent tennis. He was not playing his best tennis by any means, but he was looking decent, and Nadal was still able to step up and take that win. Nadal had a few hardcourt wins before that, but since that meeting at the 2013 US Open, which Nadal won, obviously, Djokovic has beaten Nadal on hard courts. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 times. 7 times on hard courts, Djokovic has beaten Nadal since then. Plus that meeting at Wimbledon on grass, which was another absolute epic, which makes me think this one will be another one. It finished under the roof, and I have to be honest that if that roof had not been on day 2, and I was there at Wimbledon that day. It was hot, it was humid, the skies were, I mean, light grey, but it was by no means going to rain that day. It's mad that roof was kept on for that match. So some silly excuse was made about wanting to keep the conditions of the match the same. Well, part of tennis is adjusting to different conditions. If it rains, the roof comes on, then the conditions are different to how they were at the start of the match. So that was controversial, but the fact is that Djokovic hung on and got the win there anyway. But I think it's positive for Nadal that under the roof, which is traditionally not a condition that he likes at all, he was still able to take it to 10-8 in that 5th set. So in that most recent meeting, which was an absolute epic and really high quality, 6-4, 3-6, 7-6, 3-6, 10-8 for Djokovic. He saved set point in that 3rd set, which I think was key as well. As far as I remember, they played the first 3 sets on the Friday, and then the last couple on the Saturday had to be carried over to women's finals day. Yeah, these are 2 players that I think on hard courts at the moment would be pretty evenly matched. In previous years, you'd call Djokovic to be the favourite right away. But looking at how Nadal has played all tournament, how zoned in he's been, Nadal has never lost a tournament where he's made the final in straight sets before. And a lot of those tournaments have come on clay courts, to be fair, but that's still quite an intimidating stat to have, that Nadal has never reached a final having got there in straight sets in all of his matches and lost. He's never lost in these circumstances. Djokovic, though, has an imperious record in Australia. 6 titles here speak for themselves. Nadal has only won here the once, which might sound a bit weird, really, because he's played so well here in the past. Obviously made the final here in 2017 against Roger Federer. Was a break-up in that final set and then got beaten. And I think in a way, that was almost another turning point for Nadal, because both him and Federer had started the tournament, have started the year even so well. And even though Federer did dominate him for the rest of that year, it was almost not a wake-up call, but a warning to Nadal that he needed to be that much tougher, work that much harder, that little bit. And it's made a difference further down the line. So, prediction time, I guess. Nadal, obviously, you've got to, when you look at this head-to-head, it is important to take surfaces into account because Nadal is so dominant on clay. Djokovic has the upper hand on these faster surfaces. And I think that record on hard courts tells you a lot. So even though this isn't as tough as the women's match and that prediction, I still think this is a tough one to call. And ahead of the tournament, when I found out about the super tiebreak rule at the Australian Open, where basically if you haven't been watching the Australian Open, which I presume you have if you're watching this, or maybe you just want to get prepped for the final, basically usually at the Australian Open there would be an open-ended fifth set where if players were at 6-all in the final set, it would be the first to get 2 games ahead. And that's traditionally how I believe all Grand Slams should be, because that's how they've always been up until a certain point when the US Open decided to implement final set tiebreaks. Wimbledon are now having a final set tiebreak in both men's and women's singles at 12-all in the decider. The Australian Open decided to be even more different, and they're playing a tiebreak at 6-all in the final set. However, it is a 10-point tiebreak, which does not have the same structure and rhythm of a first to 7-point tiebreak where you kind of I don't really know how to explain it, but there's a different structure to them. And traditionally and usually 10-point tiebreaks, which are also known as champions tiebreaks, super tiebreaks, etc., are only really used on the doubles circuit, which the doubles players themselves hate, because they even say, they've said to me when I've interviewed them, there is an element of luck in that kind of situation. A lot of times on the doubles circuit, third sets or final sets are replaced by a super tiebreak, champions tiebreak, 10-point tiebreak, and you see that it doesn't necessarily come down to how well a player has played up to that point. Yes, it requires a different kind of mental strength in order to play that tiebreak, but it just seems crazy to me that players can have competed for so long, produced such high quality tennis, and then it comes down to playing well for a few points. To me, that just shouldn't happen. And the reason I'm talking about that now is because I have a feeling that Novak Djokovic versus Rafael Nadal in the final, even though I joked about it happening before the tournament even began, I have a feeling it might come down to a super tiebreak, which would be so many levels of wrong, in my opinion, because they're going to push each other so close, because I think it could go to 5 sets and neither of them is going to want to let go in that final set. I think it's going to go to a super tiebreak. Part of me does anyway. And when these two players tend to push themselves, but when these two players tend to push each other to the brink and to the edge and really run each other around, there is one man that tends to come out on top more often. But yeah, that player more often than not tends to be Novak Djokovic. I think in that kind of environment, Djokovic tends to have the upper hand. And as I predicted him to win this tournament before it began, despite Nadal's insane form and the way I think he's been the most impressive player of the tournament, yes, he could come out and win on Sunday, but for the sake of this video, for the sake of a prediction, what I think is the safe call, really, I'm going to go with Novak Djokovic to win this title. And I think if he was to win it, I think this is going 5. So Novak Djokovic to win in 5 sets. So almost 1 hour later, she has her predictions down. There we go. For those of you, there are so many more people watching than usual on the stream. Maybe it's the time of day. I thought this might be more popular just around 9 o'clock in British time. But thank you for staying. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, I think we truly have 2 players here, 2 matches here even, that could really go either way, and that's very exciting, because you don't always have that in Grand Slam finals. There've been finals in the past couple of years, where one player has immediately stood out to me as having the upper hand. I think you've got 2 fairly level matches here, and with the Djokovic versus Nadal match, I've been able to look at past head-to-head history, which is really what's made my prediction, because if I was going on this tournament alone, I'd probably be predicting Nadal to win, but just based on the fact that Djokovic finds a way through these grueling matches all the time, yeah, going with Djokovic in that respect. And then you know, who knows what will happen in Osaka versus Kvitova. But anyway, thank you for watching. Someone mentioned in the last, or a few live streams ago, that they would follow me on Twitter, but they don't know my handle. I haven't put it in this description yet, but I put it in the description for every video I have. So if you scroll to the bottom of the prediction, all the links to my social media and my website and everything is down there. My personal handle on Twitter that I'm always tweeting about tennis off is at Abigail Tennis. Like, it's got the by Abigail Tennis or something underneath the tennis vlog on the usual intros. So if you want to keep up with my analysis and stuff, then follow me on Twitter there. You can follow the tennis vlog as well at the tennis vlog. Generally there I just post and advertise when there's new videos out. So, but yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining in with these live streams during the Australian Open. I will get back to normal videos in the near future. Probably I'll take like a week break or something after the Australian Open because we've done so much on this channel this fortnight. Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the live videos though. I'm sorry at the length that they have reached. It's sometimes it just can't be helped. But yeah, when this is up and has finished processing and everything, it will still be on my main channel, so go to the comments there and let me know who you think will win these two finals, and we'll see who gets it correct. It could really go either way. So enjoy the finals. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your questions throughout this fortnight and for being able to yeah, discuss and yeah, really, it's been a very enjoyable tournament, high quality tennis. I think this has been all around the best Grand Slam in a while, I think. Maybe even since the Australian Open here in 2017. But yeah, it's been a great tournament, and